Welcome to Gary's Hobby Studio. In this video I'm going to show you guys a little bit of information about airbrushing. I'm not a master at it by any stretch of the imagination, but I do use it on occasion for some things. Mostly particularly priming and base coating, and I'll show a couple of examples. So the first airbrush I want to show you is an Iwata Neo. And it's a fairly inexpensive brush. I think it goes like 60 or 80 bucks on Amazon. You might be able to get a little cheaper if you go to Hobby Lobby, because they sell some Iwatas there. You can't get it with the 40% off coupon, so I don't know exactly what they're charging for it now, because they have this year price now. But I got it before they did that, so I paid like, I want to say like 45 bucks for this thing, something like that. Basically, you connect an air hose here at the bottom, and they also make quick connect adapters for it, which is really nice. But you would screw your air hose on here, and you would set your pressure on your compressor with a regulator. Depending upon the type of paint, if it's really thin, I want to say you have to turn, I could have this backwards. I think the thinner the paint, you have to increase the air pressure, and the thicker the paint, no, it's totally wrong. I think it's the other way around. I think it's lower pressure for thinner paint, higher pressure for thicker paint. You still want to thin it anyways. But basically, you load the paint here into the color cup. This is a gravity feed. I also have a siphon feed. I bought it at Harbor Freight for like 20 some odd, like 22 bucks or something ridiculously cheap. It's not bad. It didn't work out for what I was hoping to use it for, so I haven't really used it since then. That's when I bought this one, was shortly after that. I actually bought their cheap $10 one, and that thing, the connector, it's definitely made by Badger, because it has a small port. It's not as big as this, and I was trying to screw the air hose on, and I don't know what happened to it, but it literally, like, the whole center just came right out, the whole brass inside the plastic. So definitely stay away from their $10 one. If you want to try a siphon feed one, go for the $22 one. It's metal bodied and everything similar to this. But you would screw the air hose on, put your color in here, and then you'd set your pressure. I'd say 20 to 25, maybe 30 pounds, again, depending upon paint. And I'd have to look up some paint. And then what you would do is you would take your miniature, and you would just push down, especially if it's a dual action, you push down on this here and then pull back, and that's what releases the paint when you pull it back. The press down is to shoot air out without paint. Single action is that all you do is you just push this down, and it does both. It shoots paint and air at the same time. That's more the first siphon feed one that I bought at Harbor Freight for 10 bucks. It's, you press down, air comes through, and it pulls the paint up out of the cup, because the cup sits underneath. And let me see if I can grab it. It's right up here, hopefully. I want to say this. Yep, this is it. This is the one from Harbor Freight. It's a central pneumatic, and it has a cap to go over the end. And as you can see, now this is a dual action. It's not a single action, because like I said, the other one broke and I was not about to pay another 10 bucks for it. But with this one, since it's dual action, you press down and pull back. And as you can see by the back half here, you can see that the needle's moving back and forth. So this isn't bad. I definitely put an adapter on in case if I would ever use it. and this is where the paint would be stored. There was a label on it, I took it off, and then you just put that up here, and then that's how you would do it. These I've usually seen more for when you're doing like t-shirt artwork, because this way you can, like, you know, spray the color and then pull the color cup off, different one with a different, or the bottle with a different color in it, put it in there, you know, especially after you clean it out, or, you know, let this run through it, whichever, and then you just continue painting on the shirt or whatever. Like I said, I haven't used this in quite a few years since getting the gravity feed one. I know probably some people are asking the question, well, which is better, siphon feed or gravity feed? In my opinion, the gravity feed is good, is better than the siphon feed, because you don't have to put as much paint in the cup. You could just put like a few drops down inside of this, and that's all you would need, like 3 or 4 drops, and you could do a good bit of the miniature before it runs out. The other one, which I don't know why I took it away, this one here, you have to load this up with like a good amount of paint, because it has a tube that goes down inside here. Okay, and that's how it draws it up, is through this tube. And you have to have a lot of air pressure going across too, because it really has to siphon it out. Like I said, I tried this. I tried using artist gesso, like thinned it down, and either I didn't have the air pressure up high enough, or I didn't have it thinned down correctly, or something like that. So it never really worked. So that's why I stopped using it. Still have it, because you never know, I may try again. But that's the nice thing about these gravity feed ones. Like I said, you don't have to put a whole lot in the cup to be able to do what you want to do. And as you can see by this miniature here, I was testing out Vallejo's Dura Aluminum that I just got in recently for my Great Mazinger Z painting project. I'm gonna have a video on soon. It's still gonna be a little bit. I'm still waiting on the spray booth to come in, because I currently use a box, and the blowback, like as you're spraying and it hits, and then there's like that fine mist, and it comes back because the air is going in, and there's nothing sucking it to hold it there. So, but yeah, I was testing it out, and looks really good for that. But I used, it wasn't this one. But I started out with this one and basically all I wanted to do was, because a lot of times, especially here where I live in Pennsylvania, it rains like you won't believe, and it was very hard for me to prime miniatures, especially whenever it was wet or cold, because of the fact that, you know, the primer won't stick well, or at all, because of high humidity, or if it's raining outside, I'm not going to stand outside in the rain, try to do it. Wintertime, same thing, I'm not going to freeze and do that. So this actually worked really good. It had its flaws. I think somebody had it. There was something wrong with it. They took it back to the store, and the store resold it to me. But I corrected a few of the problems, like it was leaking around here. I stuck an O-ring. I bought a O-ring set from Harbor Freight. Found one to put in. It's actually pretty decent. Not where it should, but pretty decent. I've had it for a while. I think the 5-year warranty is like up on it, or if it's not, it's probably up soon. But this is definitely the airbrush I started out with. And you take this out. I'll have to try to be careful so I don't lose any pieces, because I don't have my airbrush raised side mat. I'm not going to tear it completely down, but basically here's the needle, here's the chuck that holds it in. If you loosen that up a little bit, pull a needle out. That needs to be cleaned. Always clean your needles and everything. And then once you take that out, take the nut off, and you spin this. And once it comes out, there's what gives you the pressure, because see, without it, it just sits all the way back. It doesn't spring back up. And then you can pull this out. You can lube down inside there. You can actually unscrew the threaded part here and take that out if you want, but I'm not going to do that because this isn't like a real like tear down of an airbrush. It's just showing you some of the basics of it. They're all pretty much almost identical, except for there might be some like parts differences. That's why I always recommend, because I work in IT and everything, RTFM, read the freaking manual. Because it can save you some headaches. Believe me, when I was younger and thought I knew everything, I didn't follow that advice that my dad and others have given me. And yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, I wished I would have listened. So yes, RTFM, people. RTFM. So once you tighten this up to a degree, take the needle, be careful, because you bend the tip, it won't go in. Just gently slide it in till it stops up here through the, there's a nozzle, under a very thin nozzle that it comes out. I'll probably do a video on how to tear it apart, since this one needs cleaned anyways. That'll be later. And I'm also going to cover some of the like airbrush paints. I even seen through Vallejo's YouTube channel that they actually, you can actually do their model color paint through an airbrush if you thin it down correctly. And I've seen a way to do it. I haven't tried it yet, but it seemed to work when I saw them do it. So I was like, And they were actually using a 0.15 millimeter needle in the Harder and Steinbeck CR Plus airbrush, which I would love to get one that fine. I'm not that skilled yet. I'm starting to get a little better. Like I said, mostly I just primer and base coat. So once you put this needle back in, you slide and you tighten it down, and then you just pull back on the trigger, and you can see everything moves from the needle to this here. And then you would screw this back on as soon as you can get it to screw on. There we go. And this was my first actual gravity feed dual action, well, no, second dual action, but my first gravity feed airbrush. And if you get the quick disconnects for the hoses, it's beautiful. You don't have to sit there and play with it, and then your cord gets all tied up into a knot. This just works really well, which yeah, here we go. So basically, here is the hose, $8 Harbor Freight. Fantastic, really cheap. Picked up a generic one off of Amazon. I'll post a link in the description, because it came with 5 of these and one of these that screws into the air hose. And like I said, you pick this up, like I said, it's like $8, and I think it's like 6 or 10 feet. It's like dirt cheap. And again, for this hobby, you need to find stuff as reasonably priced as possible, because believe me, this will, the amount of money I've spent between games and this stuff, yeah. So basically what you would do is you just take it, click it on, disconnect it. You can swap it with another airbrush right away, push it in, go to town if you have to change sizes. It comes with an adapter for the other end. Put it in, and definitely put in one of these quick disconnects for your air compressor if you have a regular size one. If it's one of the hobby small ones, you won't have to worry about it, because this hose will just pretty much screw right into it. So you won't need to adapt it. I went with a full-size compressor. This way it has a tank. because I know videos go like, oh well, you know, and I mean you can hear the pulsing. I've actually seen it firsthand. A friend of mine actually has one of those type, and I've actually seen it where you can see and hear the pulsing of his spraying. So I don't know what they did in their videos. I've just seen that, and not only that, but it's a bigger tank. Like, it takes longer. Like those mini ones, they run constantly unless they have a tank built into them. And if you look on Amazon, you can see the two different types. The ones that don't have it, like I said, just look like it's a tank, but it's actually the motor that moves the two pistons or piston to compress the air and shoot it through the line. And yeah, they're cheaper. Harbor Freight sells them too. But you have to realize, since that motor is running constantly, and especially if you're doing something really big, like you're trying to paint a battleship model, or even just primer it, like you have so much of it and you want to primer it before you put everything else on so that you can get it painted, and then you can, however you want to do it, because there's different ways you can do it. You can prime the whole thing once you're done and then try to airbrush it, or, you know, do the ship body first, and then like the command center and everything else that goes on to it, you can actually do that and then glue it on. Like I said, again, however you do it. But that thing's going to be running for a while, and it's going to overheat, and there's thermal overload in it, so if it detects too much heat, it will stop working. So to me, I would rather have something with a tank. It can store it, it can run for so long to fill it up, shuts off. You can go to town. Once it hits that point that it has to fill up, then it'll fill up again, and you don't have to worry about it. That's just my recommendation. You know, you can do whatever you want. I would also recommend, if you're gonna go the big, like, regular style, which I'll try to see if I can find a link to mine, because I got mine at Lowe's. It was $200. I know that's a bit much. Harbor Freight also sells some too. They're these quiet ones where it's actually lower. I actually have mine under my desk here where I'm at. It goes off. It's not so loud that it rings my ears. And I love it. I truly love it. I would recommend that if you're going to go the tank route, especially if it's going to be like right next to you. If you're going to do it outside on a deck, or, you know, like in a garage or something, you could probably get one of the small pancakes or any of the noisier ones and kind of keep that far away, get a long enough hose to get away from it. And so it's like right, not on top of you, because you don't want to go deaf and you don't want to give yourself hearing problems. Fortunately, I don't have that. Although I remember going to a Judas Priest concert with, she was my girlfriend at the time, now she's my wife. Love her to death too, because she loves board games and everything else. She's an enabler. I blame her for a lot of this. But we went to a Judas Priest concert, and the inner ear, you know, and I didn't have hearing protection, but when we went to Judas Priest, my inner ear started like vibrating. And it was up in Johnstown, and I after that, I stick foam earplugs in my ears when we go to concerts. And I'll be honest with you, my ears don't ring for like 3 days. So, you know, I'm just trying to help people out that may have a similar situation like that, or like I said, they don't want to go deaf. Definitely go for the quieter ones. Walmart carries one. I know, I've seen it. So does Lowe's. I'm sure Home Depot does, and I know Harbor Freight does, because I've seen it in their ads, and I want to say I've seen it in their stores, but I don't think I was really paying that much attention. But they should have it in their stores. But yeah, definitely, if you're looking for air hoses, this is really good. I mean, you know, like I said, would I use this for, like, I'm painting cars that I'm, you know, like in a shop? Probably not. I'd probably spend maybe another $10 to maybe $30 more, like, you know, anywhere between $20 to $40 on a better quality one. But for hobbyists, to be honest with you, I've been using this for excuse me. I've been using this for quite a few years, and it's been doing a really good job. Hasn't frayed, hasn't done anything weird. So, but yeah, this I definitely recommend for $8 for hobbyists. So, after I started out with the siphon feed, went to my first gravity feed from Iwata. I didn't realize I had problems with it till later down the road. My next one I actually picked up off of Amazon, and it was $26. And the reason being is because I use Stynylrez primer from Badger, which I'm getting a airbrush from them because I bought one on their Happy 56th birthday. Hasn't come in yet. I hope I get it soon. But anyways, and it says here on there that you can, let's see, you should, yeah, it's saying here 20 to 30 psi or 1.5 to 2 bar. You need, it says it best applied with a 0.5 millimeter or larger nozzle. So, and I noticed I was having some problems with the Iwata using the Stynylrez. So what I did was went online. I think I picked this up for like under 20 bucks. It's just a generic, probably Chinese knockoff airbrush. I can't find it anymore, this particular one at the price. They have similar ones made by I can't think of the name of the company. It'll probably come to me at some point. But anyways, this here's what is a 0.5 millimeter, where this one is a 0.35. This was working good for, like I said, when I was base coating and stuff like that, and this was definitely good for priming, better than the Iwata Neo. So I decided to, I invested in this. Like I said, I think it was like under 20 bucks, and that was even with, I think it was like $18, and it either had free shipping or there was shipping involved. But anyway, it was definitely under 20 bucks. I think the cheapest one I've seen on there that's by, oh jeez, man, it almost had, Masters, no, not Masters Touch. Anyway, the name's almost there. But this one's a 0.5 millimeter. I picked it up, and it works really good for doing the Stynylrez. Now, is it as nice and as fine? I mean, it does spatter a little bit, but to be honest with you, this primer's self-leveling. I've seen where the drops, and I mean, I've actually seen it where I'm airbrushing and I see like extra drops hitting back that's already like dried and leveled, and the drop just levels right in with it, doesn't give it any kind of a raised look or anything. So this isn't a bad airbrush. I would recommend that if you are going to start out with doing airbrushing for priming and base coating, this wouldn't be a bad way to go, because like I said, I've seen them online for like 20 to 30 bucks. Like I said, when I find when I post this, I'm gonna leave a link to one in the description that looks similar to, I mean, it looks almost identical to it, just it has a different name, because like I said, it's a knockoff airbrush, because it kind of, I don't know if this is like a Badger type or a Iwata type, but this here has been on some of the Badger ones. It might be even on the, well, not on the two other ones that I have, but this has been on, I know I've seen like this kind of a finger rest type here on Badger. I'm left-handed. I can't do it this way. It just doesn't feel right to me. But yeah, this would be the best starter one, because it's definitely cheaper than going to I hate when I draw a blank. This would be better to try out first before you go to Hobby Lobby and purchase one of theirs, or one of these Iwatas there, because they have a couple of different ones. The reason being is because of the fact that, yeah, you're going to get a better quality airbrush, even though this is made in Japan for Iwata, and this one here says it's made in Taiwan. This one's a 0.5. It's a little larger, especially if you're going to use stynylres res, considering what it says on the label on the back here, where it says use 0.5 millimeter or larger. If you get one of these, they also too for like $30, which I'll list that one too. They actually have these generic ones. I think it's Master's Airbrush. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's what it is. It's Master's Airbrush. They either make them where you can get just a single needle, or you can get the 3 needle set, and I think they all run pretty much close. Like I said, I'll leave links to both the 0.5 single and the one with the, and it'll just be just the airbrush. I know they sell sets that have the hose and everything with it. I think they cost a little more. I'll list one of those too. But this here is, like I said, this would be a better thing to use, because this way you're first starting out and you shouldn't run into too many clogs. And I still recommend that you mix the paint with a little bit of flow improver. That'll help decrease or increase the drying time a little bit, and it won't get stuck on your needle. Let me open this one up and see if I can show you what the needle looks like. But see how you can see the needle move in and out? That's the needle. The nozzle is this piece right here where my thumb's nail's touching, and it screws into here. So basically you hold that back so that you don't, like I said, you don't hit it trying to put this nozzle, I can't think of the name of it. And then once you screw it on, then you can let it go. And this one actually has an adjustment nut where you can run it all the way in. And see, I can't even move that. Now if I loosen that up just a bit, see, and it limits how much travel that it moves. Now if I open it really up, like so, I can take it all the way back. So if you know where you need to take it with certain airbrushes, not all, certain ones, you can adjust this down to, and then you can adjust how much travel it goes, and you can limit how much paint can go out at one time, even if you hold that back. So again, it just depends on what you're painting, how much accuracy that you need. But this one's a better, and really, to me, it's a really better brush for starters, because A, it's going to be cheaper. If you don't like it, you're not out a whole lot of money. I found that this brush was, like I said, again, really good for doing priming and even base coating. So this should be your first brush, airbrush. This one should be your second, because it's a little more expensive, gives you a little bit more accuracy and everything. And not only that, but you're, like I said, you're not throwing a lot of money into some really expensive airbrushes. So there's that. Now, the next one that I purchased, because in order, if I was, and I'll put these in order of when I purchased them. So that one was second, because I didn't leave the other one out. This one was third. I actually bought an Iwata HP clips. Now this again is like the Neo. It's a 0.35 millimeter needle. It doesn't have an adjustment nut, just like the Neo doesn't. And as you can tell, they're, if we take these off, I mean, as you can see, they're almost identical, except for the name branding and stuff like that. So basically, with this particular airbrush, this one's a lot better. Because like I said, mine I think was defective when I bought it. Didn't realize it because I was new. Because when I would take them, and I have them both because I have a splitter so I can connect more than one air hose to the same port on my air compressor. I had them like hitting my cheeks with air, and when I would press down on the triggers without pulling it back, the Neo was firing, and they were both set at the same pressure. They both weren't going off at the same time, but if you close your eyes, you could feel the difference. And I noticed the difference. It seemed like the air pressure was different. That was before I did any kind of modifications to it to try to seal it around here. So with that, I was like, well, and that was after I bought this one. I was like, okay, so I mean, I'll use this as like I said, if I want to run tests, like I'm going to test paint and I don't want to run it through my good one, or if I have somebody who wants to try it, try the airbrushing out, I have no problems letting them use this one, just because the fact is that it's junk. Because I mean, it's not junk. It does work. It just doesn't work, in my opinion, as effectively as it should. But they can definitely, any of my friends that come over that want to try it, they can definitely try the HD 130 generic Chinese knockoff that I got from Amazon. I can also let them try the Iwata Neo. It would be a little bit better, even though it's slightly messed up. And like I said, if they gunk it up, jam it up with, paint, the airbrushes are going to be fine. I mean, I can clean them and everything. Just they're not going to mess up my good ones and stuff like that, because I'd rather have them break these cheaper ones than to break the better ones, because this one I paid like $140 for. And no, when they get better, then yes, I might let them do it. But pretty much this Iwata Eclipse is the same thing. This thing has really, I mean, at 40 pounds, I mean, it was putting out more air, hitting my face a lot stronger than the Neo was. But like I said, I'm not faulting that. Like I said, I think I had a defective one when I bought it, and just like I said, I just didn't realize it. So this one here is a little more expensive. It's 0.35. It's what most excuse me, it's what most of them use. Most people use, especially my one friend that told me about it. He has it. He has one. He loves his. He actually has a handle that where if you loosen it or something, you can like smack on the back of it to push if there's any kind of blockage. I'm not wild about that, because what happens if it like goes wonky and it like causes your needle to bend? I'm a little leery on that. That's just my opinion. So I didn't buy the handle. I don't think they make the handle anymore for some reason. I think I read somewhere there was a reason why they were stopped making it. So I didn't pick it up when Amazon had it. But this is a really nice brush. I've used this for base coating. Probably if you thin down the stynal res, you could probably run it through a 0.35. That's your choice. I could try. I might try it and just see. But this is a really nice brush. It's about $140, $150, give or take. And as you can see, whenever I took the handle off, if you saw from the previous one, it looks almost identical. This might be a little longer, or this body could be a little shorter. And as you can see, it is made in Japan. It's just, like I said, it just depends on what you want to do. I don't want to say to you, yes, go out and buy a $150 airbrush, and then 6 months later you're like, ugh, I really don't like using this thing. So that was my next airbrush. Then shortly after I got this one, because I got it at a store that was going out of business, I did save a little bit of money, not a lot, a little bit. I bought the Iwata Revolution CR, because this is an Eclipse HPCS 0.35. I bought the Iwata Revolution CR. It's a 0.5. Again, these two side by side, putting out about the same air at the same pressure setting. So this, like I said, this one isn't bad. It's not as accurate, probably. Like I want to say that the needle needs to be smoothed out. I've seen a person that says that you can improve the quality of a cheap airbrush, and he had like this rubbing compound from Tamiya, and he ran it like right along near the tip to, like, I guess, like smooth it out. Cleaned it out, and it seemed to have it definitely made, whenever he was doing lines and that, a little, like, not as wide, not as messy, you know, and it wasn't spattering as much, so it was definitely better control. That's what you get if you buy cheap. That, you know, it's not, like I said, I'm not saying that to not buy the cheap, because like I said, it's definitely good for practice, definitely good for learning, you know, finger control. And again, you're not putting out a lot of money. And if all you're doing is priming and base coating, I used this for the longest time before I even bought one of these. So, you know, one of these better ones. And the only reason why I did was because, like I said, Pat Catan's was going out of business, so, you know, and I kept going there practically every day to to get the best deals, as they kept lowering the prices. So they never really did do that on this until, like, it was really getting close, and then any airbrushes that they had there were gone like that. So I saved money off of it on their normal discount, but I didn't save as huge as probably somebody else got. But then again, I had to work every day, and I worked in one area, and Pat Catan's was in a different area, and it would take me time, and yeah, I just couldn't do it. So I bought this one too, same place, because it was really weird too. It was $99.99. They jacked it up $10, but then they gave a discount to bring it back down, which made no sense there whatsoever. So I didn't have to pay the $10 ahead of time, or, you know, I didn't get it when it was $10 more, just so they can give me the $10 back. But I bought this, and it works really well. I used it to prime and base coat. And I wish I had, maybe I do. Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to show you two examples with priming and base coating. This is priming. I primed this Reaper figure with Stynylrez, and as always, my camera doesn't frickin' want to focus. But anyways, I primed this Reaper Bones figure with the Stynylrez black primer, and it adhered really well to it. I know some people say that you can't do it. You can, as long as you actually, like, stick it in the water with some soap and, like, really scrub it with an old toothbrush, because that's what I did, and this stuff has stuck to it, and it hasn't come off. It's whatever they're manufacturing crap that they coat the molds in to, so that mold release stuff, it, like, sticks to this plastic like crazy. But I was able to scrub it up, and it actually held up really good. So basically, the way I'm looking at it is, you can do it. You have to scrub them. I want to say you have to scrub those a little more than you have to do most other miniatures, because I don't know what their crap Reaper uses, but man, oh day, that stuff really sticks to their miniatures. At some point, I'm going to get around to painting him. Now, this is an example of base coating. Also, so was this here too, because I used the gloss black primer from Vallejo on this one to test out that duraluminum because of the Great Mazinger Z. And before I laid down any gold paint or any of the other colors that are on here, like the gunmetal gray there and some of the other places and all this stuff down here, I primed it in black at about a 45-degree angle here. I hit it with gray all the way around, and then from a 90 degree, I hit it with white for zenithal priming. And what that does, that helps helps you with the shadows and the midtones and stuff like that. So I did that, and then once I did that, I started to brush paint him here with this color. It's the blue violet from Createx Wicked Color series. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just airbrush this stuff? Because as I was painting it, I mean, it doesn't look too bad, really. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and just airbrush it on. And that's what I did. And it's actually, the Space Marine is like my only Space Marine that I will probably ever have for the rest of my life. And it did not turn out that bad, actually. I actually liked the way it came out. Could have done a better job. I could have. I wanted to do the base before sticking him down, and I had him in when I primered him and then pulled it out so that I could like assemble everything. And yeah, there's like a spot near his foot and that I didn't get because of the fact that right after I did that, I slammed him in and glued him, and I was like, oh man, really? So then I had to work around him. That's the only nice thing about that, is that if I would have done it right, it would have turned out a lot better, but yeah, it didn't work out that way. So, but yeah, this is a 0.5. It definitely works excellent for the priming and base coating, which is what I've been using it for. I mean, you know, they do make single action of a lot of these. I don't know if you would really want single action, because, you know, when you just depress down, it shoots air and paint all at the same time. You have no control of how much is coming out, especially if you want to do some like fine detail work, like where you're like really up close to this guy's head, and you know, you could just push it down a little bit and pull it back, and then just like move it like this. Yeah, single action, unless you're just going to do priming, then you could probably get away with a single action, not a dual action, because they do make gravity feeds with single action. So it like I said, again, it just goes to what you're planning on doing with it. Like I said, if you're just starting out, you don't want to spend a lot of money, I definitely recommend this type from Amazon. Like I said, if you want to go with the small compressors, compare prices between Harbor Freight and Amazon, because I mean, unless you have Prime where, you know, you get free shipping, their stores have it. If you live next to a store, you could probably get a better deal through Harbor Freight with their 20% off coupons, and sometimes they have 25s. It just depends on if you sign up, because I know it's sometimes I get catalogs and it's like, hey, 25% off, you know. So you could definitely do that. I know they have a thing right now that if you spend over, what is it? I think it's $50, you get an additional $5 off. So it's like, you know, if you're spending like $60, you use 20% off, it's still over 50. You use that extra 5, you save $5 more off of that. Then they have another one, because I got it in the catalog, it's $10 off if you spend $100 or more. So you could end up with a better air compressor deal from Harbor Freight than you would from, say, Amazon. You might be able to get a better deal on the like little mini air compressor tank combo through Amazon, because I don't believe Harbor Freight has those off the top of my head. But yeah, I would definitely recommend the Chinese knockoff to start out with. Save yourself some money. Decide on if that's what you want to continue to use, or do you just want to go and, you know, take potluck out there with the weather and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely the Amazon one would be my first recommendation. If you don't want to go that route, you could definitely go to Harbor Freight. I mean, not Harbor Freight, Hobby Lobby, and get the Iwata Neo CN for around 50 bucks. You still have to buy an air compressor. I don't recommend using any of those like cans of compressed air for airbrushing, because I've never played paintball or anything, but they have like those CO2 canisters for their guns. Well, because of the fact that air, when it's being shot out, it gets cold. Especially, another good example, cans of compressed air that you use to blow out on your electronics. You notice how whenever you spray it, it starts getting cold, and especially if you really turn it upside down and then hit it, and how it shoots that frost mist out of there, because that's the actual gas that pushes the air out. That stuff, it starts freezing up, and then it could slow the air coming out. That's why I don't recommend it. I recommend using a compressor of some type. Depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're going to be traveling to people's houses, definitely go with the more portable option. If you're doing it from home, choice is yours. But definitely try the cheaper one first. Like I said, save yourself some money. If you decided it's not for you, you're not out a whole lot of money. You have something decent for not too bad a price. I'm thinking, give or take, I mean, Amazon may even have some deals where it's like under $100. You might even get a few paints, an airbrush, and an air compressor of some type. So there's that. Then once you feel that you want to branch out into things, definitely go with either the Eclipse or Revolution. I know Badger makes Patriot 105. You used to be able to get that stuff at Michael's, but I don't think they carry it anymore. I think the only one that they carry is the Neo, which, like I said, if you're starting, you can, but they charge a lot more for it, and you get 40% off, and it probably brings it down to pretty close to what you could just go walk into Hobby Lobby and just get it for. But they also carry the Iwata. I want to say they carry the Eclipse. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. But definitely, like I said, always start cheap to practice with, to decide if that's what you're going to do. Then, if you want to move up, you can. I still need to practice a little bit, but I got the Badger Chrome airbrush, and it's coming with a 0.2 needle, which is really small. Because I want to try to see if I can do some like fine detail work of some type on some things. One thing I'd like to try is maybe on this dumpster from Marvel's Crisis Protocol. So there's that I want to try. There's probably some other things too. It just depends on how comfortable I get with it. But those are my 4 airbrushes right now. I'm not saying I'm not going to get more, because you can always have more, because like I said, you can always use them for different things. I know, like I said, the Neo and the old Amazon one, those are definitely for people that want to try it. The Eclipse, Revolution, and the Badger Chrome are going to be for me for when I'm doing my actual paintings, priming, stuff like that. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Help out with the algorithm on YouTube so that more people can see it. And as I always say, don't be afraid of the hobby. And have a good day.